Well, kids, depending on how old you are, you may be reading every day some news about climate change, how heat waves, wildfires, storms, etc. are made worse by climate change and so on. You may also be reading at the same time some sections of the community, society, businesses, etc., arguing that climate change is not real, it's not causing these things we are seeing every day, and so on. So, where is the confusion coming from? You already learned in this series of podcasts that the CO2 in the atmosphere is increasing. We can measure it precisely and accurately, and we have been measuring it since the 1950s when Charles Keeling started to measure it, and it keeps going up. And we can use isotopes to say that these are actually coming from burning fossil fuels, and we are the ones burning the fossil fuels. And the heat that is accumulating because of these increased greenhouse gases can go into the ocean, can be used for melting glaciers and raising sea levels and evaporating the ocean. So the temperatures year to year after year need not go up. There will be ups and downs because the ocean may hide it and release it and so on naturally. And if you look at decade to decade temperature changes, which is what is an indication of climate change, then we saw that every decade is now warmer than the previous decade for the last 5 to 6 decades. So we don't need to wait for 100 years to realize or admit that climate change is real, because in the meantime, if the risks of climate hazards are going up, then we must prepare to mitigate our impacts on climate change. We must prepare to mitigate the risks, respond to the risks, recover from the events that are caused by these risks, like hurricanes and sea level rise and inundation and flooding, wildfires, health impacts, and so on and so forth. Okay, why are certain groups debating climate change if it's so obvious? Well, there are always vested interests who prefer to ignore or deny climate change and convince people that it's not real, and ordinary people may get confused by looking at the way CO2 is changing continuously, whereas temperature year to year changes, sometimes gets warmer, sometimes gets cooler than the long-term average, and so on. We'll discuss more and come back. Okay, kids?